Dear EVS, I don't know if you are aware, but one of your old backers from Cyberfrog 2 posted a pretty damning message recently on several of your campaign pages. I'm afraid it's not a nice read. Your first reaction might be to ask yourself, why is everything always a nightmare? What I would like to do in this video is to try and answer that very question. Why is everything always a nightmare?
There's a whole fucking shitload of resentment underneath the surface of this that I've just kind of tapped into.
Indeed there is. And of course that message here is not the actual problem. It's just a symptom of the problem. And the guy who wrote it, Ben Pullen, is not an enemy or a hater. Rather, he appears to be a prior fan who is just really frustrated. And he has actually taken time out of his day to tell you exactly why he is so frustrated. Frankly, I think he raises some really good points. Not all of them, of course, but on the whole, I think he has every right to be pissed. I would like to get into that some more. To be clear, I don't think you're doing any of this on purpose. I think that, like all human beings, you have your strengths and weaknesses, and like most of us, or perhaps even more so, you prefer to spend your time and energy on things that you actually enjoy doing and that you are passionate about, and not on the things that you feel you have to do. Before we get to Ben's message, I would just like to touch briefly on why I'm doing this. Like several of your viewers, I have come over from the Nick Recader crowd in late 2023. Of course, there was this rather memorable discussion between Nick and Eric July, and shortly afterwards you came forward with the now infamous Night Letter from Eric. But you didn't just talk about Eric, you also talked about criticism and the importance of listening to it, even if it came from people who hate you. Let's watch a quick sample.
The most important thing to me, of course, is getting better. We have to get better. What is the indie comics scene about? What is it for? Well, to me, the idea is to create stories independently, which is not easy to do. It's not easy. Crowdfunding helps. The internet helps and all of this. We got to run little businesses, and running a business all by yourself is not easy. Just isn't easy. It's hard work. It takes up a lot of time, takes up a lot of energy. But none of that means anything if what we're producing is shit. I spent my life, learning how to draw. Nobody taught me how to write, and nobody really is teaching me too much about how to. Nobody has taught me too much about how to draw either. It's just from listening to criticism. It's just from being around my peers. These things have made me become one of the greatest artists of all time. You have to listen. You have to grow. This is what's vital. So, Dick Masterson went and he read it, and then he made a list of criticisms. He went through it page by page and talked about it. He typed up what he was seeing and little mistakes that he saw as he was going, his thoughts as he was going, and then he wrote a nice summation. Really good criticism, and I saw that criticism. I was actually envious of it because it was professional criticism, and normally people have to pay for that kind of stuff. And then this thing came up where Eric said, "I'm not going to follow the notes because they weren't offered in good faith." And I struggled with that because when you distinguish between good faith and bad faith, when you basically are absolving yourself of the obligation to respond. You don't have to heed any criticism when you just write it off as bad faith criticism. You don't have to. That is disturbing to me. But the point is, it's not about who likes you. It's not about who approaches you in good faith. That's irrelevant. It's about criticism. Is it right or is it wrong? And if you're honest with yourself and you're in touch with yourself as a creative person and you understand story, you understand you're close to your story, maybe too close to your story, you're going to recognize valid criticism as being valid criticism.
Your message really resonated with me. I thought there was a lot of wisdom in it, and it's a very mature, professional attitude to have. And even though I really didn't know much about comics, I decided to hang around and listen to what else you might have to say. It ultimately led me to getting interested in Cyberfrog, buying your comics, backing your campaigns, and becoming a fan. But the longer I watched, the more I noticed things that I wasn't so impressed by. Your campaigns are not only late, but they seem derelict. You're not updating your backers, and when you do, it's often just to ask them to back some other campaign of yours. The comments are full of people either asking for updates or requesting refunds, and by the looks of it, they are just talking into the void. Again, I don't think you're doing this consciously. I think you just don't like writing updates, and because you regularly talk to people on your stream, you are probably under the impression that you are already being very transparent. And sure, if somebody on your live stream asks about Rainbow the Brute, you'll tell them what the status is. Case in point.
Questioner says, how many pages of Rainbow the Brute, my comic book, are penciled and inked? I don't know. Hold on a second here. You want to see? Here's Rainbow the Brute. Here's most of Rainbow the Brute. Okay. It's not just penciled and inked, it's colored. But it's on a file called Rainbow the Brute. It's something like 29. Last time I counted. Could be 32 at this point. We're getting there. Getting closer.
But meanwhile, over on the campaign page, don't you think that your backers, whom you haven't updated in 4 months, might have an interest in knowing that you are 30-something colored pages into that 48-page book that they think they will never receive? But instead you just bury this information in a 6-hour live stream. Now, as you know, I also took a good look at your eBay store and shared my thoughts, which were based on my own personal experience buying from you. And while you are, of course, free to ignore my advice on how to make it easier for people to give you their money, once you actually have their money, you also have certain obligations. Obligations such as reading and answering to customer emails. Of course, in your speech from back then, you were specifically talking about creating artwork and stories, and about how criticism is necessary if we want to grow as artists and storytellers. But surely that same principle applies to any professional area, doesn't it? And while you are a comic book creator first and foremost, you also are a businessman, whether you like it or not. So imagine my surprise when in response to my video, you suddenly had this to say about criticism.
But no reasonable criticism can be levied towards me, because the minute you say anything that's even reasonably critical of me, a bunch of fucking weirdos come out of the woodwork saying bizarre shit, hateful, weird shit. I told Lathan, I said, dude, I am the human sunbeam for a reason. Not only do I make beautiful flowers grow, not only do I separate day from night, but also vampires shriek in my presence. Ah! They burst into flame, turn into black soot, and the whole time they make an unpleasant noise. So you might as well just not even try to criticize me. Like, you might as well, in this environment, where we're fighting good. I mean, we're fighting evil. There's a battle of good versus evil. In this environment, you might as well just be completely, like, all nuance needs to go away. There's no nuance. Just be 100% on my side and 100% against them.
Now, isn't that rather convenient all of a sudden? You can dismiss any criticism, no matter how reasonable, by pointing to the haters that will invariably attach themselves to it.
That is disturbing to me.
Yes, it is. Not only is it disturbing, it also feels rather familiar. In fact, isn't that what the mainstream does with Comicsgate? They call it an alt-right harassment campaign that targets certain group identities while employing threats of violence and even downright vandalism. And by lumping everything together, any criticism from anyone associated with Comicsgate can be dismissed, no matter how reasonable it might be. Or look at Shad M. Brooks with his AI garbage. He just points to the handful of idiots who crossed the line, wishing for him to suffer physical harm, and declares that the anti-AI crowd doesn't have any real arguments. Magic. And of course Eric July, who famously dismissed critics of ISOM as bad faith actors and certain crack smokers on the internet.
All nuance needs to go away. There's no nuance. just be 100% on my side and 100% against them.
Either you are with us or you are with the terrorists.
And I get it. You dislike these people. And it's annoying, possibly even hurtful, when someone like me, someone who should be on your side, starts lending credence to their narrative. But I have to. I have standards. And I'm not going to turn a blind eye just because I like you. Now, with that out of the way, let's review Ben's message. The first thing I want to point out is that this statement is actually really well written. It's not a rant by someone who's just typing whatever comes through their head, throwing around swear words, etc. Someone actually took time out of their day to convey their grievances in a clear and structured manner. Ostensibly to warn others, but some of it is addressed to you directly. For anyone who is considering contributing to an Ethan Van Sciver campaign, or contributors wondering when in the holy hell their stuff is ever going to ship. A lot of us are still waiting for Ethan to send us our Cyberfrog 2 honeycomb boxes from contributions we made several years ago. I personally made a contribution of $275 plus $20 for shipping on that campaign, and also contributed hundreds of dollars to other EVS campaigns years ago, including Rainbow the Brute, which is still not complete all these years later. The Cyberfrog 2 campaign started fulfilling over 2 years ago, and those of us who still haven't received our honeycomb boxes can't get an answer from Ethan or anyone at All Caps Comics regarding when we will receive our stuff. Let's pause here for a second. For anyone watching who isn't already familiar, Cyberfrog 2 is of course Ethan's massive campaign over on Indiegogo, where it raised just over $1.2 million. It had tons of momentum and started partial fulfillment in January of 2023. The highest level tier, the honeycomb box that Ben Pullen is referring to, started fulfillment in July of that year. Rainbow the Brute is another project by Ethan, which is still funding, and which was originally supposed to ship in December of 2021. So Ben, and others like him, paid $275 for their perks. $275 may mean a snack for you, Ethan, but it means a big deal to them. Repeated emails on this matter for over a year from those of us who are still waiting go ignored by Ethan and anyone at All Caps every time. Ethan won't respond to comments on the topic on his campaigns. He has responded to a couple super chats that I'm aware of on the subject while live streaming, saying he has a couple remaining head sketches to do and saying each time that he'll get them done this week, so as to deceive the audience into thinking that he is actually resolving what is at worst a small issue. So what Ben is referring to here are the head sketches from the Cyberfrog 2 campaign. This is where Ethan is using the inside of the book to draw a unique sketch. Really nice idea, but of course it turns Ethan into a bottleneck for these orders. How many people actually purchased this, I have no idea. It says 74 on the campaign page, but that is only counting those who backed this particular item as their main perk. It seems many people bought the executive box with a head sketch as an add-on, so the real number will be significantly higher. Important to note though, Ethan's backers regard this as a small issue. As far as they can tell, there aren't many sketches left, and in their mind, Ethan should be able to knock these out in no time. Now Ethan, you actually posted an update on the campaign page in October last year. That was more than a year after the previous update in which the fulfillment was declared well on the way to completion. In this post from last year, you are already talking of a few head sketches remaining. And I do wonder if Heather's grim demeanor is reflective of your own when thinking of all the sketches you still had to complete at the time. Now if you go to the comments section of the campaign, you can indeed see several people still waiting for their honeycomb boxes. Ben Pullen actually states that he went and super chatted you to inquire about the status. For anyone still waiting for their order that has been held up by a head sketch, I sent a super chat during Ethan's current livestream, Trashcast Super Show, at the almost 1 hour 39 minute mark, asking that he do my head sketch so I can receive my honeycomb box from 5 years ago. He said he has a couple more to do, and I'll get it finished this week. I'll get all those done. Hopefully he'll be a man of his word. Let's keep each other updated here about whether or not we receive shipping notices. And sure enough...
Superman BP, hey, will you do me a favor and do my head sketch so I can get my Wreck Planet honeycomb box from 5 years ago? I've been emailing for about 8 months, but I can't get a response. I appreciate it. Thanks. Yeah, I've still got a couple more to go, Superman BP. I guess it's you. I guess you're among them. I'll get it finished this week. I'll get all those done.
That's right. He paid you even more money just to maybe get the tiniest of updates. Of course, that was almost 2 months ago, and it seems that since then, not much has been happening, at least at the receiving end. This is why Ben is talking about deception. The word liar gets thrown around a lot on the internet, and I often struggle with it, because to me, lying implies intent. And I suppose the same could be said about deception. But you did say you were going to finish them off back then, and by the looks of it, you didn't follow through. Did you lie to Superman BP to deceive your audience? I sure hope not, but you did overpromise and underdeliver. What are these guys supposed to think? And I can practically hear you through the screen. I'm doing them, and I'm also doing Rainbow the Brute. And yes, I also saw your tweet from 2 weeks ago, where you said you were getting a lot of stuff done. That's good, but it's not enough. The people who should be seeing this are not seeing it, and if they did, they wouldn't believe you anyway. Not anymore. Not until they finally receive what they paid for. After all, trust comes by foot and leaves on horseback, and whatever trust these guys had is long gone. Let's continue. In reality, there are a lot of us still waiting, and the evidence indicates that he has no intention of fulfilling the remaining orders and intends to steal our money, since he also refuses to issue refunds for these unfulfilled orders. Anyone who cared at all about their customers would be sincerely apologizing for the delay, leaping into action, and making fulfilling these remaining orders from years ago a priority. Especially considering that the apparent holdup is that he isn't bothering to do the head sketches that we paid extra money for. Now there's quite a bit here. First, the evidence indicates that you have no intention of fulfilling the remaining orders. What he essentially means is that there is no evidence that you have an intention to fulfill those orders, at least not as far as he or his brothers-in-arms can see. The only evidence these guys are going to accept is a package arriving at their doorstep. He intends to steal our money and refuses to issue refunds. Now what I'm guessing is happening here is not so much that you refuse to issue refunds, but that you are simply not responding to those requests. And to those guys, that's essentially the same thing. You always say on your show that you honor refund requests, and I have not seen any evidence of outright refusal, but I have experienced what it feels like when you are simply not responding. I had to make a video to get mine, remember? Never mind that it's not even clear where people should go with their requests. Should they post in the comments? Should they DM you on X? Should they send you an email to that inbox with over 20,000 unread messages? Should they super chat you? My guess is the answer is none of the above. I suspect you just want your customers to leave you alone. But it's the absence of a response that is being equated to a refusal to refund. As far as these guys are concerned, you might as well have stolen their money. Anyone who cared at all about their customers would leap into action. Yes, I suppose they would. And while it's easy to say you don't care, I actually think you do care. But at the same time, you are probably sick of these sketches by now. I also have the suspicion that you feel bad about the whole thing, so you avoid it entirely. Focusing on streaming and drawing Cyberfork 3 probably makes it easier for you to ignore your nagging conscience. Dr. Jordan B. Peterson would probably have something to say about that, possibly involving a dragon that one must face.
You think back in your own experience when you've gone to a house where there's a dragon hiding underneath the living room rug and nobody's saying anything about it, and then you think, how long does it take to get something absolutely simple done in a house that's absolutely jammed to the rafters with unfinished business? Forever, right? Organizing people in a household like that, to even do something as simple as go out for breakfast in the morning, or even perhaps to make a meal, is virtually impossible. Why? Well, because there's something going on in the household that has been studiously ignored for a very long time and has grown so large as a consequence that it occupies the whole domain.
And at the end of the day, I also understand that this is art. Art cannot be forced, art needs to breathe. And the idea of knocking these things out assembly line style is probably revolting to you. And maybe you tell yourself that you can get it done anytime you want, this week even. But this week turns into next week, turns into next month, and suddenly a whole year is gone. To guys like Ben, the bitter irony is indeed that they paid extra. They backed bigger than everyone else. They wanted to show you extra support and commemorate things with a custom sketch. Oh, if only they hadn't done that. They would have had their executive boxes in their hands a long time ago.
I've been good to you, and you pay me back with non-stop ass rape! Well, fuck off!
And for some reason you have decided not to ship the boxes on their own, though that would easily have been an option. My guess is, again, that you kept telling yourself that you'll get the sketches done in no time and might as well ship everything together. Meanwhile, these guys see everything else they ordered up on your eBay store. Even worse, you are seemingly taunting them by shilling your other stuff on the update page of the very campaign that you have still not fulfilled. How are they supposed to feel about that? From their perspective, you are laughing in their faces. Let's continue. Ethan has spent endless hours live streaming instead of fulfilling his responsibilities to his paying customers. Not to mention concerts, outings to gamble, vacations, etc., all on the money that we have given him while we remain empty-handed after years of patiently waiting. Now, I don't share his view, but unfortunately I can't blame these guys for thinking this way. They're not having fun, and so they resent the very idea of you having fun. You owe them for the money they gave you, so you should not be allowed to spend any, least of all on having fun. Regarding the streaming, I personally think a man should of course be allowed some downtime, and this is clearly an activity that you enjoy. And of course your fans are asking for it too, including myself. The problem is essentially one of optics. Ethan is doing anything else besides finishing those sketches. The underlying complaint is a lack of prioritization of something that you should have finished a long time ago. Ethan talked for years about the supreme importance of valuing, respecting, and taking care of one's customers. However, what Ethan has demonstrated in practice is that he has no problem stealing from customers, lying to customers, stonewalling customers, and treating his customers with unwarranted contempt. I'm guessing that he's thinking he can continue to screw over countless paying supporters because he can rely on continually duping new suckers into forking over their money as they find him through one of his nearly daily, several hour-long live streams, not to mention his participation in other people's live streams, and hear his stories about being a victim and a truthful guy coupled with his sales pitches, not knowing about how he habitually doesn't fulfill campaigns for years, and even when he starts fulfilling, doesn't finish and doesn't refund those who don't receive what they paid for. Damn. Clearly a lot of resentment there. And the accusation that you will gladly burn existing backers by not delivering and just count on getting fresh backers for your latest campaigns. I am one of those suckers. Backers. And while I'm sure that you will eventually deliver on those campaigns and that your comic will be of the utmost quality, I only have this faith because I listen to your show and I get those tiny little updates that are buried under hours and hours of content. Someone who doesn't have those updates will only see those campaign pages, and they haven't seen any news posted on them in months. Instead, we have plenty of people requesting refunds in the comments. Let's finish this. Ethan, if you read these comments, we supported you in good faith. We have worked hard for the money that we contributed to your campaigns. We contributed because we believed in your talent. We wanted you to be successful. and we were supportive of you in your plight after what you went through. Have the basic decency to communicate with us in an honest and transparent manner. Have the respect for us that we had for you, and fulfill your end of the deal. Set aside the necessary time to knock out these sketches and ship out your orders. You owe people work that you have been paid for. You don't have any business doing anything else until that work is done. You have and continue to heavily and publicly criticize others for doing things that are basically the same things that you have done and continue to do. Many of us who generously contributed to the crowdfunding campaign to get Cyberfrog 2 made have been waiting for years to receive it and read it, while just about everything from the campaign has been made available to anyone and everyone via eBay for years. Demonstrate that you have the integrity to walk your talk, communicate with us, and make the situation right. So, yeah, I think you should get this fixed. And I think you should do it soon. The way I see it, you really have two issues on your hands. One is, of course, getting those sketches done, and the other is doing something about these terrible optics. Each of these messages, from Ben or otherwise, is a giant, stinking, festering turd. If you're just going to let it sit there, it's just going to stink up the place, especially on the campaigns that are still funding. And Ben over here seems determined to achieve just that. I don't think he actually wants to hurt you, but he has tried everything else, including sending you super chats. He has been patient, he has been nice. Now he's getting nasty. What else can he do? And perhaps you are done with the sketches by now and they are on their way to the customers as I upload this video. In that case, you should still address the bad optics and respond to these people. Better yet, post a campaign update stating that all sketches are done and that they will receive them shortly. But assuming you are not done yet, which seems to be the more likely situation, I'll be happy to tell you what I would do if I were in your shoes. The first thing I would do is look up exactly how many sketches I have left. It may sound trivial, but my feeling is that you don't actually know. It's been a few or a couple seemingly forever. And I can only speak for myself, but whenever I have something I don't want to do, it sometimes helps to figure out what it actually is. Often the fuzzy idea of it is more daunting than the actual task. It's much easier to face the proverbial dragon if you know exactly what you are up against. How many do you have left? 10? 30? 100? If the number is low, you really have no excuse to not get them done already. Set some time aside, get in the zone, get it done, claim victory over your haters. If it's more than you can do in a single sitting, you'll have to start putting a serious dent into that number every week. That means setting a weekly target. Again, I'd set some actual time aside deliberately each week. If you can do a dozen in a single morning, you can certainly do 10 a week. You'll be done in no time. The other thing I'd do is to acknowledge the issue and commit to finishing those sketches right here on the campaign page. Not only will that ensure that your backers are made aware that you are finally addressing the issue, but it also means that you are willing to face the music publicly. Ethan Van Sciver does not run from his problems. Ethan Van Sciver addresses his problems. He does this because he has standards and because his backers mean the world to him. In the update, I would mention exactly how many sketches are left and how many I plan to do each week. This will give the backers a sense of scale and duration. Instead of the ever-present, a few head sketches, trust me bro, there is now a clear target and a commitment to a certain degree of progress. I would also state that if anyone would rather have a refund, they should confirm again in the comments, otherwise all remaining orders will be fulfilled. Now that I'm on the hook, I would also, how could it be any different, post additional updates every couple of days to demonstrate that I have indeed done what I said I would. Again, this provides comfort that things are actually progressing, and it shows the outside world that Ethan Van Sciver is a man of his word. Besides obviously doing the sketches, I would also throw in something nice from my shop. Another book, for example. It doesn't cost much, and after all, my backers have shown me the utmost patience. Once the sketches are all done, and I have personally ensured that they have left the warehouse, I would post another update on the campaign page. Again, this would inform the backers that everything has gone out, but it would also demonstrate to the public that I have in fact done what I said I was going to do. I would include a note stating how I would like to be contacted in case of any last issues. And that's really it. Shouldn't be more complicated than that. Perhaps, as a final step that is totally optional, I might recommend having some victory pie. And maybe I would revel in the fact that my haters can no longer hurt me as far as Cyberfrog 2 is concerned. All they have left to bitch about are Rainbow the Brute and Cyberfrog 3, and soon enough I will be done with those as well. Won't I? As last piece of advice, I would like to leave you with the wise words of a famous comic book artist that I have really come to appreciate over the last 2 years.
All eyes are on you. Everyone's looking at you. You got to let yourself listen and get better at this. It's important because a lot of people are counting on you. And a lot of people are investing money in you.
Get it done, Pie Man. It's time.